What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. So, over the past couple weeks, I've been releasing my preseason top 25 one by one each day. But you know what? I decided let's go ahead and drop the whole top 10. So, that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be revealing my top 10. And then later on in a couple weeks, I'll probably do a full breakdown of my preseason top 25. But I will put the link to the playlist at the end of this video if you want to check out my breakdown of the rest of the teams already listed here. But let's go ahead and get into it. You can see all the teams we've got so far. So, let's get into the top 10. At number 10, we have Oklahoma State. All right. As of right now, I would say they are, in my opinion, the favorite in the Big 12. Top 5 team in returning production in the country this season. They return a ton from last year's team that made the Big 12 championship already. And really, the Big 12 is pretty up for grabs. I think it's theirs for the taking, as well as, Utah and any other Big 12 team you see here, as well as maybe like Kansas State. But Texas and Oklahoma are gone. Oklahoma State, I think, is the team that's going to capitalize the most from that. I think they should be able to run the gauntlet here this year. They were kind of up and down last year, but still made the Big 12 championship despite, losing some games they shouldn't have, beating some teams they should have not. But with Ollie Gordon back, with Bowman back, I think that offense should be good enough, and their defense is going to be improved as well. They're a year older and already have that championship appearance under their belt. So I think they'll be back this year. All right. We've got number 9, Clemson. Dabo Sweeney has been kind of hit and miss, these last few years without Trevor Lawrence. Cade Klubnik hasn't gotten them quite over the hump. They haven't been bad ever, but they haven't quite been the Clemson of old, I would say, to where, they're a perennial playoff team that can really compete with Alabama, Georgia, whoever. Really looking at them these past few years, they haven't looked like the Clemson of old either, in my opinion. Like when you watch them play, they're not near as big as they used to be, not near as athletic as they used to be. So they just don't look like the same team. Like used to when you think of Clemson, you would put them on par with those teams, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. And when you look at them, be like, oh yeah, they can play with them. But right now, you just really don't see that. Now I do have some guys coming back on the D line that I think are NFL bodies. So I think they have a chance this year to compete and win the ACC, and it's pretty up for grabs. I think they'll be one of the teams, and I think they're a top 10 team as of right now. But last year I was really high on them as well. Preseason last year, admittedly, I thought they would make the playoff. I was way off. So we'll see. They played Georgia week 1, won them a lot early. Number 8, Oregon. This is going to be low for a lot of people. Let me get a drink before I dive into this. But it's going to be low for a lot of people. I know a lot of people have Oregon in their top 5, top 4, top 3, whatever. This is an improvement for me, all right, because admittedly I've been skeptical of Oregon as the years have passed. They're moving to a tougher conference. I think this team is very talented. They have improved through the portal defensively. So I think that defense is going to be improved. I think Dillon Gabriel is going to be fine at quarterback. They're not going to miss a beat as far as what they lost. But the real question mark for me is moving to the Big 10. Can they do it week in and week out? If this team was still in the Pac-12, I might have them towards the top 5, but I have my doubts they're going to be able to do it week in and week out in a tougher conference where, any given Saturday, that team can beat you. And it's going to be a challenge. We'll see if they're up to the task. I think they are a college football playoff caliber roster, but we'll see if they can do it in the Big 10 as far as running the gauntlet. Our number 7, Ole Miss. This is probably Lane Kiffin's most talented roster he has had. They've got Jaxson Dart back. They lose Quinshon Judkins to Ohio State, but they have loaded up in the portal. That defensive line in particular is nasty. And with Nick Saban gone, with Georgia losing a lot, can they compete for that SEC championship? We'll see soon enough. I don't know if they're quite there yet. These past couple of years when Lane Kiffin has got them to double-digit wins, there's still kind of been a little gap from them and the top tier. When they play Georgia, there's still a big, obvious gap. So have they closed that gap? I think so, but not completely closed. I think they're still a step behind, but they do benefit the most from playoff expansion. Our number 6, Missouri. They actually surprised me last year. Eli Drinkwitz did a pretty good job there. Speaking of teams that, kind of competed with some of the tougher teams, Missouri was one of them. I had my doubts on them as far as, really what they were when they were having a good season at first, but they actually competed with the tougher teams in the SEC. They return a lot. Brady Cook, Luther Burden. They bring in a running back that's probably going to replace Cody Schrader's productivity, I think. So they're not going to be too big of a drop off there, if any. And I think with a roster that is a year improved, I think this team is a legitimate force in the SEC this year. Not saying they're just going to dominate the conference, but with the way their schedule lines up, this team could be in the SEC championship. Our number 5, Texas. This might be low for some people as well. They've got Quinn Ewers back, but they lose a lot of skill guys on offense. Now, I do bring in some seriously, I would say, dynamic transfer portal pieces, skill position wise, but are they going to be able to replicate that production of Xavier Worthy, of A.D. Mitchell, of JT Sanders? We're going to find out. And admittedly, I've been a little skeptical of Steve Sarkisian as a head coach. They made the playoff last year, lost to Washington. Defense looked a little spotty against Washington. So I think they have improved that defense a little bit. They bring in some good portal guys. Safety from Clemson is one that stands out to me. But we're going to have to see if Quinn Ewers can lead this team. And I won't say do it by himself, but get this team to the promised land. Because similar with Oregon, they're going to a tougher conference. Are they going to be able to compete in the SEC week in and week out? Number 4, this is going to be high for a lot of people, Penn State. This roster is loaded. All right. This is one of, if not arguably, the best defense in the country this season. Drew Aller is back once again. They have improved their offense a little bit through the portal. They bring in a receiver from Ohio State. They've got a pretty dynamic backfield with a couple running backs that can really get after it. I know James Franklin gets a lot of hate, but I think Penn State's a legitimate threat this year. Similar to Ole Miss, they benefit the most from playoff expansion. And as of right now, I think Michigan's going to take a little step back. I think Penn State is that next team up. Backtrack a couple years. I've said this a lot if you watch this channel, but they were like the 5th best team a couple years ago. They lost to Ohio State and Michigan, which both made the playoff. So Penn State, I think they are the team this year. I think they've got a shot. I'm not going to say they're going to beat Ohio State, but they were competitive with them last year. They were competitive with Michigan. Kept both those games close. Penn State's a year older. They return a lot of guys. I think they're going to be a sleeper this year. Our number 3, Alabama. They lose Nick Saban. All right, that's been documented. Kalen DeBoer. Originally, I had them a little lower, but the more I've looked at their roster, the more I've just thought about it, they have slowly creeped up this board here. Kalen DeBoer, I think, is going to be fine in Alabama. He has ended up being fine, reloading the transfer portal after, it was like a max exodus right when Saban announced his retirement. But you've got Jalen Milroe. I think he's arguably the best athlete on the field at all times, probably. Not saying he's the best quarterback, best athlete on the field at all times, which is what you want. And I think with Kalen DeBoer's offense mixed with Jalen Milroe, that's going to be a nasty combination. And they're going to be fine. That offensive line is improved. He brought over some transfer guys from the offensive line from Washington with him. So I think they're going to be improved from last season, believe it or not. And I think they've got a legitimate chance to win the national championship this year. All right, so the top 2 teams, as of right now, I would say are on a different level. But Georgia, they do have some question marks. Similar to Texas, they've got the quarterback back, but they lose a lot of skill guys. Lab McConkey's gone. Brock Bowers is gone. How are they going to replicate that production? Half their team's getting arrested weekly, for whatever is going on. Kirby Smart's got to get that under wraps. But anyways, Georgia, regardless of that, is talented. They are, as of right now, I would say the favorite in the SEC, but not a bygone favorite to where it's like, yeah, no doubt they're making it. They didn't make the playoff last year. They should be in it this year, obviously. Now, will they win the SEC? I don't know. They've got a straight up gauntlet of a schedule. They also play Clemson in the non-con. So it's a brutal schedule for Georgia and Alabama, actually. I don't know if both these teams are going to be 2-3 by the end of the year because they just play such tough schedules. They'll be in the playoff, but where will they rank? I don't know, but I wouldn't want to play them in the first round if they are not the home team. All right, and number 1, Ohio State. Admittedly, this might be a little high as far as not high, but, I'm not saying they're the definitive number 1 team because they do have a lot of question marks. You replace Kyle McCord. You've got question marks with Ryan Day as the head coach. Can he beat Michigan this year? That transfer portal class they have brought in, though, is stacked. All right, the backfield you have, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins is going to be nasty. Will Howard has won a lot of ball games. I don't know how much better of a passer he is than Kyle McCord, really, but he does offer you kind of a running threat. Mecca Ibuka's in store for a good year. You've got Caleb Downs coming in on defense. I think Ohio State right now is the number 1 team. But that is my preseason top 25. How will it look after week 1? It's probably going to change a lot, but we'll find out. But what do you think of this list? Who would you add to this list that is not on this list? Who would you take off? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe.